For years, I was a family scapegoat, the one they mocked, blamed, and ignored. When my parents demanded I attend their big anniversary party, I finally refused. But what happened next revealed a shocking secret about stolen money that destroyed everything they'd built. Growing up, I learned early on that in my family, I was the one who would always take the blame. My older brother, Eric, could do no wrong in my parents' eyes. If he broke a vase, it was because I had distracted him. If he failed a test, it was because I had stressed him out. And if I ever dared to speak up about the unfairness, I was told I was being dramatic, ungrateful, or disrespectful. By the time I was a teenager, the pattern was set in stone. Eric was a golden child. Praised for his average achievements, excused for his mistakes, showered with opportunities one never got. I was a scapegoat, blamed, criticized, and expected to know better. It wasn't just my parents. Even my extended family followed the script. At family gatherings, aunts and uncles would beam at Eric's stories, while mine were brushed aside. If Eric got into trouble, I was lectured about being a bad influence. If I accomplished something, it was dismissed as luck. At first, I thought if I just tried harder, they would finally see me. I studied late into the night, earned top grades, even got a scholarship for college. But when I proudly told my parents, my mom barely looked up from her phone. "Well, I'm sure Eric could have done the same if he had applied himself," she said, as if my success was just a reminder of his shortcomings. That was the moment I realized, no matter what I did, I would never be enough for them. Still, I kept trying to be the good child. I visited home during breaks, helped out when they needed, bit my tongue when they made cruel jokes at my expense. I swallowed the resentment because some part of me still hoped things would change. That maybe, someday, they'd finally treat me like family instead of convenient punching bag. Then came the anniversary party. My parents were planning a huge celebration for their 35th wedding anniversary. A fancy venue, dozens of guests, catered food, the whole show. Everyone was expected to attend, of course, especially me. But when I got the invitation in the mail, something inside me snapped. I stared at the gold embossed card, with its flowery script and formal tone, and all I could think about was every insult, every time they made me feel small, every sacrifice I had made that went unnoticed. And now, after years of treating me like I didn't matter, they expected me to dress up, smile, and play the role of the dutiful child for their big night? No, not this time. I made a decision right then. I wasn't going. And that single decision would set off a chain reaction that would finally expose the truth of what my family had done to me. But it would also turn almost everyone I knew against me. When I decided not to attend my parents' anniversary party, I thought it would be simple. I'd quietly decline, maybe give an excuse about work or personal obligations, and that would be the end of it. After all, they never really cared when I was there, so why would they care if I wasn't? But I underestimated how much appearances meant to my parents. A week after receiving the invitation, my mom called me. Her voice was syrupy sweet at first, which already put me on edge. "Honey," she said, "I just want to confirm that you'll be at the party. We reserved seats for the whole family, and it wouldn't look right if you weren't there." Notice the word she used. Look right, not we'd love to have you there. Or, it would mean a lot to us. No, it was all about appearances. I took a deep breath and said, "Actually, Mom, I'm not planning to come." Silence. Then sharp disbelief. "What do you mean you're not coming? This is our anniversary. Everyone will be there." "I know," I replied calmly, "but I've decided it's better for me not to." That's when the sweetness evaporated. Her tone hardened. "Do you have any idea how selfish you sound right now? After everything we've done for you, you can't even show up for one night to honor your parents." I almost laughed at the irony. Everything they'd done for me, years of scapegoating, mocking, dismissing, still, I held my ground. "Mom, I don't think you'd actually want me there. I know how these things go. Eric gets praised all night, and I get criticized for whatever I wear, say, or do. I'd rather not subject myself to that anymore." Her gasp was audible, like I just spat on the family name. "How dare you accuse us of treating you that way? You've always been so ungrateful. Do you know how much we've sacrificed for you?" I didn't even argue. I just said, I'm sorry you feel that way, but I've made my decision. That conversation unleashed a storm. Within hours, I started getting texts and calls from relatives. My aunt scolded me for breaking your mother's heart. My uncle said I was being dramatic and immature. Even my cousins, who never bothered to talk to me otherwise, sent passive-aggressive messages about family duty. And of course, Eric called. His message was short but cutting. You always have to make everything about you, don't you? You can't just let mom and dad have one night without turning into your pity party. Grow up. I wanted to scream. For years, I had been their scapegoat, their emotional punching bag. And the one time I drew a boundary, the one time I said no, suddenly I was a villain ruining everything. That's when I realized something. This wasn't about the party. It was about control. My absence would expose the cracks in their perfect family image. Without me there to play my assigned role, people might start asking questions. And my parents couldn't stand that. So they turned everyone against me. But what they didn't know was that I was done playing their game. The more I stood my ground, the nastier things got. A few days after the phone call with my mom, I received a long email from her. It was filled with carefully chosen words designed to make me look like the ungrateful child, while painting her and Dad as selfless martyrs. She wrote things like, "We always try to give you the best, even when you were difficult." And, "Do you realize how humiliating it is for us to explain to everyone that our own child refuses to honor us?" Not a single line acknowledged the years of mistreatment I endured. No apology, no reflection. Just guilt-tripping and manipulation. I didn't respond. But ignoring them only seemed to fuel their anger. My brother Eric started calling mutual friends, telling them I was having a meltdown and needed to be talked sense into. He painted me as unstable, someone who always played the victim. One of my old friends actually reached out, saying, "Hey, maybe you should just go. It's one night and it'll keep the peace." That cut deep. I realized people who hadn't lived my reality would never fully understand. To them, it was just a party. To me, it was decades of humiliation wrapped in a shiny bow. Still, I started to question myself. Was I really being too harsh? Was I the selfish one? That doubt lingered until I remembered a memory from years ago. It was at my high school graduation. I'd worked hard, stayed up late studying, and even earned a scholarship. But on that day, instead of congratulating me, my dad muttered, "Well, let's see how long this lasts. You're not as disciplined as Eric." My mom agreed, laughing lightly as if it was a joke. Meanwhile, Eric got a standing ovation for showing up with decent grades and announcing he wanted to explore business opportunities. That day, I promised myself I'd never forget how small they made me feel. And here I was, almost repeating history by letting them guilt me back into their cycle. No, not this time. When I refused again, my mom escalated things further. She actually sent me a message saying, "If you don't come, don't bother call yourself part of this family anymore." And you know what? For the first time, that didn't scare me. It felt liberating. Because deep down, I'd already known the truth. I was never really treated as part of the family in the first place. I was the scapegoat, the one they could dump their frustrations on. If cutting me off was their way of punishment, so be it. The anniversary party came and went. I wasn't there. And afterward, the fallout was brutal. Relatives sent photos of the big event, deliberately pointing out how empty my chair looked. Eric made a post on social media about how family loyalty is everything, with a thinly veiled jab at me. My parents didn't speak to me for weeks. But something incredible happened too. In the silence, I felt peace for the first time in years. No fake smiles, no biting comments, no role to play. Just me, free from their script. Of course, that peace didn't last long. Because soon, someone in the family finally broke the silence with a shocking revelation. The shocking revelation came from someone I least expected, my cousin Sarah. Sarah and I had always been friendly, though not especially close. She lived out of state, and usually only visited during big family events. A week after the anniversary party, she called me out of the blue. "Hey," she said gently, "I wanted to check in. I saw all the drama online, and I don't think you're wrong. I froze. No one in my family ever openly supported me. You don't? I asked cautiously. No, she said firmly. Actually, I think you did the right thing. And honestly, you should know something. That's when she told me what happened at the party. Apparently, during the speeches, my dad made a comment in front of everyone about how Eric had been the pride of the family since day one, while I had been a constant challenge. The crowd laughed nervously, but no one said anything. Then my mom added, "We're just grateful Eric turned out so well, considering the example he had." I felt like the air had been punched out of me. Even in my absence, they still couldn't resist turning me into the family scapegoat. But Sarah wasn't done. "There's more," she whispered. I overheard Eric arguing with Aunt Linda later that night. He was furious because your parents dipped into the family savings to help him buy his new house. They basically gave him money that was supposed to be set aside for both of you. I sat there in stunned silence. My parents had always said they couldn't afford to help me with anything: college loans, rent, even small emergencies. Every time I asked, I was told, "We can't play favorites. We have to be fair." Fair? What a joke. They had been funneling money to Eric behind my back for years, while making me believe I was selfish for even asking for help. I felt a fire ignite inside me. For so long, I had doubted myself, wondering if I was a problem. But this was proof. Hard evidence that I was never treated equally. When I confronted my parents about it, they didn't even deny it. My mom sighed dramatically, saying, "Eric needed it more. He's starting a family. You don't have kids. You don't have the same responsibilities. You'll be fine on your own." And my dad added, "Don't be so dramatic. It's not like you're starving." That was the moment I realized something important. They never saw me as an equal child. To them, I was the backup, the scapegoat, the expendable one. So I told them flat out, "If that's how you see me, then I'm done. I won't keep playing this role for you. I deserve better." The phone call ended with my mom crying, my dad cursing, and me finally breathing freely. It hurt, yes, but for once, the hurt came with clarity. Still, I couldn't shake the feeling that this was just the beginning of something bigger. Because if they'd been lying about money for years, what else had they been hiding? I couldn't stop thinking about Sarah's words. If my parents had secretly funneled money to Eric, then what else had been swept under the rug all these years? So I decided to dig. I started small, looking through old paperwork I had stored away, college loan statements, letters, even birthday cards. I remembered how, when I was younger, my grandmother used to say, "I'm putting money away for all of you kids. You'll thank me someday." But when I went through her will after she passed, I never saw a dime. At the time, I assumed she hadn't left me anything. Maybe she forgot, or maybe she thought I didn't need it. But now, I wasn't so sure. I called Aunt Linda, the same man who had argued with Eric at the anniversary party. She'd always been more honest than most of my relatives. After some hesitation, she finally told me the truth. "Your grandmother actually left equal shares for both you and Eric," she said quietly. "But your parents handled the estate. They told you there was nothing because they decided Eric needed the money more. They used most of your shares alone for his business and his house." I felt my chest tighten. They had stolen my inheritance. All those years of struggling, working 2 jobs through college, skipping vacations, scraping by while Eric bragged about his entrepreneurial lifestyle. And it was built on money that was supposed to be mine, too. When I confronted my parents with this, they didn't deny it. My mom tried to soften it. "Sweetheart, you've always been so independent. Eric isn't like you. He needed the support." And my dad? He just shrugged and said, "Life's not always fair. At least the money stayed in the family." Those words burned into me. Life's not always fair. That had been their excuse for everything. Every insult, every dismissal, every time they made me feel like I wasn't enough. But this wasn't just unfair. This was betrayal. I told them, with more calm than I actually felt, "You've spent years making me the scapegoat, and I tolerated it. But stealing my inheritance? That's where it ends. I'm done with all of you. My mom burst into tears, calling me cruel. My dad barked that I was ungrateful. Eric, of course, tried to spin it as if I was being petty and jealous. But I didn't care anymore. For the first time, I saw everything clearly. They had always chosen Eric. They had always minimized me. And now, I finally understood it was never about me not being good enough. It was about them never wanting to see me as equal. I walked away from that conversation with a strange mixture of grief and relief. Grief for the family I wished I had. Relief because I no longer had to pretend. But even then, I had no idea that the real fallout was only just beginning, because once the rest of the extended family found out the truth about the inheritance, the entire family dynamic exploded. The fallout began slowly, like cracks forming in a wall. At first, it was whispers. Aunt Linda quietly telling a cousin, who then told another cousin. But soon, the truth about my stolen inheritance spread to the family like wildfire. For once, I wasn't the villain in the story. People were shocked. My grandmother had been beloved, and everyone knew how much she valued fairness. When it came out that my parents had funneled my share to Eric and lied to me about it, jaws dropped. Some relatives tried to stay neutral, saying things like, "It's a family matter, we shouldn't take sides." But others were furious. Aunt Linda openly called my parents thieves. Uncle Mark refused to attend Sunday dinners at their house anymore. Even Sarah, who had always kept her distance, posted something vague but pointed on social media. Family loyalty should never mean covering up betrayal. Eric, of course, doubled down. He insisted that I was exaggerating, twisting things, making a private family decision sound like a scandal. He even tried to paint me as greedy for caring about the money at all. But no matter how hard he tried, the facts were undeniable. The will was clear. The money had been meant for both of us, not just him. For the first time in my life, people were seeing my parents and Eric for who they really were. And yet, not everyone turned against them. Some relatives clung to the old narrative that I was difficult, overly dramatic, the problem child. They claimed I was trying to ruin the family by airing dirty laundry. It hurt, but I realized something important. I didn't need their validation anymore. I had the truth, and I had freedom. The real turning point came a month later. My mom called, her voice trembling. "We've lost so many people because of you," she said, as if I had caused a rift. "Can't you just forgive and forget?" I took a deep breath. "Mom," I said, "I spent my entire life forgiving and forgetting every insult. Every time you made me feel worthless. Every time you shoved me into the role of scapegoat. But this, you stole from me. You lied to me. You made me believe I didn't matter. And now you wanted to act like none of it happened? No, not anymore." There was silence on the line. Then, for the first time in my life, I hung up on her. That was my closure. I won't pretend it was easy. Walking away from your family never is. There were nights I cried, wondering if I'd made the right choice. There were days when the loneliness felt unbearable. But slowly I built something better. I reconnected with Sarah and Aunt Linda, who became real sources of support. I focused on my own goals, my career, my friendships outside the toxic cycle. And most importantly, I finally started to believe that I was worthy of respect, love, and fairness. The anniversary party that I refused to attend, it became the breaking point, the moment everything unraveled. And though my family tried to spin the story against me, in the end, it only revealed the truth about them. I had been the scapegoat for years, but not anymore. Now, when I think about that empty chair at the party, I don't feel guilt. I feel strength. Because sometimes the bravest thing you can do is refuse to sit at a table where you are no longer respected. And that was the day I finally set myself free.